Domestic violence. It's a word that once it's put out there, it's hard to take back. Most people don't even consider domestic violence to be a serious social issue, but rather an internal affair that should be dealt with inside a relationship. But that's not the case. When looking at domestic violence as a social issue, there are many problems, such as why do people abuse, and what programs are put in place to help the abusers overcome their violent tendencies. According to the Domestic Violence Hotline, the phrase can be defined as a pattern of behaviors used by one person to maintain power and control over another person in an intimate relationship. Using that same source, we can identify the 6 different forms of abuse: physical, emotional, sexual, reproductive coercion, financial, and digital. You can look at domestic violence through 3 different perspectives: the abuser, through the relationship as a whole, or society. In a study by G.H. Stamp titled Accounting for Violence, he says that when it comes to a society, the attention is focused on the crisis itself rather than the instances leading up to it. In that same study by G.H. Stamp, he tries to answer the question of why people abuse. The women in the study blame alcohol consumption, a control factor, a family background of domestic violence, jealousy, or fighting over children. The men in the study, however, blame their abuse on being unhappy with either their relationship or their partner, retaliation from the women if they become violent, or a jealousy factor. According to the study made by Nancy Burns in the 1960s, the battered women's movement was a result of cultural structural system of gender discrimination. She goes on to say that as a society, they tend to blame women more than men in a few ways, such as women are held accountable in their own victimization. 2, they hold a higher standard for women's violence, but not men's, and they blame battered women's advocates. In a survey by Hamel Cannon, he talks about the solutions in place for victims and abusers. He states that even though there are programs in place for abusers, they are uneducated in ways to help them and are too focused on the needs of the victims. According to the Domestic Violence Hotlines, there are many ways for victims to seek help, such as calling 911, seeing programs in place that will help get justice for them, or just therapy to help with any mental issues caused by abuse. But I have solutions for these problems. 1, we could start studying more on the abusive nature of men or women, and we can, after we understand and after we've communicated that, we can start working on building better programs to help abusers stop these abusive tendencies. Because once we identify the problem, we can create a solution. And my second solution would be to, My second solution would be to stop blaming victims for their own victimization. If you think about child abuse cases, they always ask the parents, why did you abuse your child? But they never ask the children, why did you allow yourself to be abused? Once we start communicating better with both victims and abusers, the problem of domestic violence as a social issue could be a thing of the past.